Now, if we look right here, these are also the vertebral arteries, correct? This is the vertebral artery. Okay. Now the vertebral artery is going to go through the transverse foramen, and then if you look, it actually goes through. You can see it right there. Okay. It goes through the foramen magnum. Does everybody see that? Okay. It goes through the foramen magnum. Okay. It goes through the foramen magnum, and if you look right here at the board, you can videotape the board. If you look right here, here's the vertebral foramen. It then goes up and then moves along into what we call the basilar artery. So you go from two vertebral foramens into one basilar artery, and the basilar artery we can see right here. That's that single basilar artery. Okay? So that's the basilar artery. You guys see it? Okay. Then the basilar artery is then going to give off this artery right here. There are actually these two arteries, and these are the posterior cerebral arteries. And the posterior cerebral artery is obviously going to supply the posterior part of the brain, which is right back here. Okay, and you can see that right here. So this right here is vertebral artery, basilar artery, and then it goes to the posterior part of the brain, so therefore it's the posterior cerebral artery. If we look on the opposite side, or anterior, we have the internal carotid artery. Now, where does all of this come from? Well, this right here is the common carotid artery. Okay, this right here is the common carotid artery. And the common carotid artery is then going to split. It has an external carotid artery, which is found right here, and an internal carotid artery, which is found right here. So this is the internal carotid, and this is the external carotid. So the question becomes, how do I know which is the external, which is the internal? External is representing superficial, okay, meaning toward the surface. So if you follow this artery is going to be more superficial. And also this one is really the ultimate one. This is the facial artery, and you can actually follow it, and it goes to the external carotid. And isn't this going to be superficial? Yeah, okay. This one, therefore, if this is superficial and it goes to this artery, this is external carotid, this one must be what? Internal carotid. Now the internal carotid artery is going to go through what hole in the skull?
The
carotid canal. Good. Carotid canal. See how simple that is? It goes through the carotid canal. As we look at the drawing, the internal carotid artery is then going to bifurcate into the anterior cerebral artery and the middle cerebral artery. So we have internal carotid goes anterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery. So here we have the internal carotid, and then we go up. Okay? So the internal carotid artery is going to actually finish its pathway right here inside of the brain. It's going to give off this artery, which is the, excuse me, oh, did I point to that? I meant to point to this, I'm sorry. Point to this. This is going to be the internal carotid artery. It's then going to give off this branch right here. This branch right here. Okay. Which is going to be the middle cerebral artery. And then this branch right here called the what? Anterior cerebral artery. Now in Anatomy 2, you're going to be learning about this much more in depth when you start going through blood vessels. There's something called the circle of Willis, which is found right in here. You're going to learn that more in Anatomy 2. So this is anterior cerebral artery right here, and then we have middle cerebral artery. Now what's nice is, remember we talked about this artery right here is the vertebral artery, correct? This is the vertebral artery. We said vertebral artery goes superiorly. It then goes through the foramen magnum, right? Now if you look right here, look at the tip of my finger and find the letter V. See the letter V? That's the vertebral artery. Everybody see it? That's the vertebral artery. Going to the left and right of my finger. Okay? So this right here are the two vertebral arteries. Now we said the two vertebral arteries are going to come together and form the basilar artery, right? So the basilar artery is this artery that you find right here, tip of my finger. That's the basilar artery. Everybody see that? Then the basilar artery gives off what artery? The
Common carotid artery.
posterior cerebral artery, which you find right here. Posterior cerebral artery. Okay, so posterior cerebral artery, middle cerebral artery, anterior cerebral artery. Does everybody have that? Good. Next, as I talked to you guys a few moments ago in terms of the dural sinuses. The dural sinuses are going to be located in the dura mater. Remember, we said there were 2 layers to the dura mater, and here we have the dural sinus. So this right here is the superior sagittal sinus. These are the arachnoid granulations. We talked about arachnoid granulations in a moment. So there's arachnoid granulations, then deposits the fluid into the superior sagittal sinus. So we're going to go through this in a few moments, okay? Is that good?